So we already are in the midst of Chodesh Adar. First Adar, not second, but it's still Adar. And today, after many shiurim that we gave in Koilel, we're going to somewhat speak a bit about the essence of Purim of Chodesh Adar. But first let me say welcome to a very special guest that we have in Koilel today. My dear friend Ephraim Gersberg and his son Gavriel sitting right next to him. And Ephraim is one of the most important partners we have in Koilel with all his heart. And Gavriel has come to look for yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, and we all hope you'll find the greatest yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. Maybe the greatest yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael is your uncle's, but don't necessarily need to learn in your uncle's yeshiva. You could learn in the other, but wherever you are, you should have a great estalus, a great aliyah, and you should ultimately grow to be a great Talmid Chacham. And Ephraim, from the depth, not from the depth of my heart, but from the depth of our hearts, our collective heart of Zichron Shabsai V'Aryeh, we thank you, and you should have so much nachas from Gabriel and your entire family. So this koilel is called Zichron Shabsai V'Aryeh, which is somewhat a peculiar name, but it is in memory of Ephraim's father, Reb Shabsai, and his father-in-law, Reb Aryeh. And it's a wonderful way to keep a family together for eternity, having both partners in this koilel. And I need to thank Ephraim especially because he's helpful in having my shiurim being in koilel. So once again, you should have so much nachas and good health and shefa harav. So we are approaching Yemei HaPurim, and there are many minhagim in Purim, as in every other day in Jewish life. We're learning Hilchas Pesach now in Koilel, and the power and significance and importance of minhagim is quite obvious in Pesach, maybe even more than in other areas of Shalom, but in Purim as well. And some of these minhagim are really annoying and aggravating, but nevertheless we adhere to them because that is the way we see minhag Yisrael. For instance, the minhag making noise when the Shliach Tzibah says Hamon. It's extremely annoying, but obviously it is a minhag v'sikin, and it's a minhag that's been with us for many years, and we cherish minhagim. However, there's one minhag in Purim which nobody keeps today, and I have no intention of reviving this minhag. To the best of my knowledge, neither Sephardim nor Ashkenazim keep this minhag, even though it has a very early and extremely important source. And that's a Gemara, Sanhedrin of Samach Daled. Nobody actually knows about this minhag. And once again, Baruch Hashem, that nobody keeps this minhag. So what is it all about? I keep you in tension for a few minutes. So in Sanhedrin of Samach Daled, the Gemara says, Mashvarte de Puraya. And Rashi explains, there was a minhag that kids used to dig pits, ditches, and light fire, and they used to jump over the fire. That's what they did. So as you could assume, I'm happy that this minhag was forgotten, and I have no intention of restoring this minhag. But we do need to understand what a strange minhag, and what does it have to do with Purim? It is Mashvarte de Puraya, and Rashi writes that they used to put fires on in pits, and then Mekapetz mitzad al tzad, jumping over the fire. Where were their parents? I have no idea. So what is the essence of this minhag? On one hand, I think Eish is Midas Adin. As the Ramban writes in Devorim, Perek Lamed Gimel, on the Posek Miyaminoi, Eish Das Lamoy. And the Ramban asks, Yamin is Rachamim, small doicha v'yamin mekareves. So small symbolizes Midas Adin, while Yamin symbolizes HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mercy, and Rachamei Shemayim. On the other hand, Mayim is Rachamim and Eish is Din. So the Ramban asks, how does the Posek say Miyaminoi, Eish das Lamoi? Eish goes with small, and Mayim goes with Yamin. And the Rambam has his interpretation and the Ramban speaks about Midas Adin that's Mashpia Rachamim. But nevertheless, Eish is Midas Adin, and we want to show that Purim is a special day in which we can overcome Midas Adin. And that's why they put out fires and jump over the fire, indicating we could overcome Midas Adin. And this Vasemis writes not this Vasemis, but the Noam Elimelech in Parshas Boy writes that there's a special Sgula in Purim, the Mapola So'oyev, that all our enemies should have a Mapola, and that is V'nahafichu asher yishetu haYehudim heimo b'soineim. How? How does one overcome Midas Adin? Al Yedei Talmud Torah. And that brings me to my other understanding and my other interpretation of this minhag. So why do kids put on fire and jump over the fire? The Gemara says in Shabbos Daf Peches, Shabbos Pesach and Peches is the major sugya in Shas Bavli, talking about Mamad Har Sinai and Kabbalah Satayra. Nowhere else in Bavli is there such a lengthy discussion of all the details of Mamad Har Sinai. And at that same Daf Gemara, the Gemara brings two conflicting interpretations. What actually happened at Har Sinai? On one hand, Chazal say, "B'shosha Gnimu Yisur Nasa Lanishma." What a glorious moment that was! How magnificent it was! Samach Riboy Malach Hashor, 600,000 angels descended from the heavens, and they dressed each and every Jew with Shnei Ksorim, Echad Keneged Nasa, Echad Keneged Nishma. So Chazal exalt the moment in which Bnei Yisrael were Makdem Nasa Lanishma. On the other hand, in that very same blot, the Gemara says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu overturned the mountain over their heads and said, if you're not going to accept the Torah out of free will, you will be destroyed. You will be buried under the mountain. So was it by force or was it by free will? Was it coercion or was it out of our own choice? And I have an amazing pshat to an amazing teretz, but maybe we'll leave that for another opportunity, another time. But Tosfos says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kiviyachol was afraid. That's a separate question. Could HaKadosh Baruch Hu be afraid? Doesn't he know what is going to happen? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kiviyachol thought that maybe when we will see the fire raging on the mountaintop, maybe the Jews will retract. Maybe they will regret. Maybe they will try to get away, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns over the mountain and he says, there's no way out. There is no way out. So that is Tosfos. And the Gemara says, Purim, the Jews renewed their dedication, their devotion, and their willingness to accept the Torah out of their free will. And Rashi writes, when they saw the Kodesh Baruch Hu perform Nisim for them, they loved the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So Tosfos says that the Kodesh Baruch Hu thought, when they will see the fire, maybe they will retract. And I'm curious to know, what actually happened when they did see the fire? How did they respond? So in Parshas V'eschan, the Pasuk says, "V'tikruvun v'tamdun tachas hahar, v'hinei hahar boyer be'esh ad lev hashumayim choshech onon v'yarofel." It was a frightening spectacle, because usually when you have a huge fire, there's a lot of light. Fire equals light. And in this case, v'hinei hahar boyer ad lev hashumayim choshech onon v'yarofel. So we could assume, we could imagine it was a frightening spectacle. And how did they respond? V'tikruvu v'tamdun tachas hahar. They all pushed in. Nobody looked for cover. Nobody tried to get away. Nobody ran out. V'tikruvu v'tamdun tachas hahar. It once occurred to me, Simchas Torah by Kol HaNe'orim. It's a beautiful minhag. So they spread out a talis, and all the kids from the shul push together and come together, and everybody wants to be sure he is under the talis. And fathers come with their little babies and all scramble together, and then everybody schleps the talis, and another talis, and another, and everybody's pushing the talis just to be sure he's under that talis. What is the origin of this meaning? What is it about? I say it's a zecher to v'tikru v'metam d'tachas ha'ar. They saw the fire, and accept them, and instead of trying to escape, and look for cover, and running away, and get out of it, they all pushed. And I imagine, well, maybe I'm stretching my imagination, but I imagine everybody looked up and everybody schlepped that mountain in his direction, and it was a nest that the mountain didn't come apart, that it didn't disintegrate into 1,000 parts, because everybody pulled that mountain just to be sure that he is standing tachas ha'ar, v'tikru metam tachas ha'ar. And maybe that's the meaning of Kol HaNa'orim. When we rejoice with the Torah and Simchas HaTorah, we want to remember that magnificent moment of Ekdim Anasel Nishma Tachas Ha'ar. So Kodesh Baruch Hu was afraid. He thought there was a need to threaten. And we say, Rabbeinu Shalom, there was no need to threaten. Nobody tried to get away. We all wanted to be part of it. So Purim, when we renew our dedication, the kids put on fires in the pits and jump over the fire to show we were not afraid of fire. We were not afraid of fire then. We're not afraid of fire now. We know. But we want to be close. We want that fire. We want to be close to that beautiful fire, because fire of Torah is unique. And the Baal HaTurim says, when Moshe Rabbeinu, in his very first revelation, and he sees the sneh boyer be'esh, vasneh enenu ukal, and the Baal HaTurim comments that sneh is the same as Sinai. Ha-sneh. Sinai is samach nin yud, ha-sneh is samach nun double hey, which equals a yud. So the Eish of Sneh was the same Eish as the Eish on the mountaintop in Sinai. And Moshe Rabbeinu experiences that Eish, and that was a remiss to Moshe. You are the one in the future who will give Torah to you, so on Har Sinai, and this is that same fire. What was unique about the fire of the Sinai? Lehinei asneh boyer be'eish v'asneh einenu ukol. Fire is so important to the world, because fire gives heat, it gives warmth, it gives light, but fire is also one of the most destructive powers in the world. Fire destroys. And in days of yore, many years ago, fire was far more dangerous than anything else in the world. Entire cities burned down. When you just come to think of it, there were no fire hydrants and there were no fire trucks. And when fire broke out in a town, people need to rush to the wells and fill up buckets, try to put out a fire with buckets that you need to bring from a half a kilometer away. Entire cities burned down, tens of thousands of people were destroyed. So fire is one of the more important sources of energy, but is also a destructive force. But the fire of Torah does not consume. And that's the secret, that's the side of Hinei Asneh Boyer Be'esh Vasneh Einenu Ukal. Eish HaTorah gives warmth, the fire of Torah gives light, it does not destroy, it does not consume. And that is the remes that Moshe Rabbeinu understands in his very first Gilud, in his very first revelation, the Hinei Asneh Boyer Be'esh Vasneh Einenu Ukal. So we saw that fire, and we were not deterred, we were not afraid, we understood. That is the fire of Sneh. That is the fire of Torah. Fire that warms and fire that gives light, it does not destroy. So, that is the meaning of Mashvarta de Poraya. So kids put on fires and they jump over the fire to show that we are not afraid. So Purim is a day...
What does Mashvarta mean?
I don't know. So, Purim is a day in which Hodor Kiblu B'may Cheshverosh, and it's a day in which we renew our devotion and our love of Torah and of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, many early Gedolei HaMusar, like the Shloah HaKadosh HaMasechet Megillah Os Teis Vav, Yesod V'Shoresh Hu Avoda, Shara Mifkad, they all say that Purim, by its very nature, is a day of Bittul Torah. And not a negative Bittul Torah, a positive Bittul Torah, because we're busy with mitzvahs. There are so many mitzvahs that we are engaged in and busy with on Purim. First of all, twice a day, Mikra Megillah, Balayla Uviyoim, and the mitzvah of Mishloach Monas, and the mitzvah of Metonos Avyonim, and the mitzvah of Sudas Purim, and people come and people go. So these Gedolim, like you said, the Sheshvain and the Shlosh, say that you need to find time to learn Torah as well, because La Yehuda Moisu Oiro, Oire Zu Torah, and Hodor Kiblu Obe Me'achashverosh. So in Drashas Chasam Sofer, the Chasam Sofer says that he heard from one of his rabbis in the name of the Shev Yankov, and the Shev Yankov was one of the early and greatest Achronim, going back 350 years, that anybody that will learn Torah between Megillah Shalayla and Megillah Shalyoim, Megillah Shalboika, Muftach Loi, that he will have a wonderful year. So I don't know whether this has a very early source, but the Shev Yankov was one of the greatest Gedolim, and the Chasam Sofer quotes it in his name. And on my shul every year we have a little notice on the wall quoting this Chasam Sofer. So this is a great Segula. And Purim is all about Simcha, which comes to indicate that Talmud Torah b'Simcha, Talmud Torah in a day of Simcha, Ein lechu Segula Gedola Mizu. So some Achronim say, and there's an amazing tshuva in the Avon in Ezra, that by Mikra Megillah we are also makayim the mitzvah of Schilas Masei Amalek. But today I'm not giving a shiur, so we will not go into this. But as we know, Haman was a descendant of Agag, and Agag was a descendant of Amalek. So Haman was Amalek, and in a way, this was Melchemes Amalek. So many times I mentioned that in Bava Basra Mem Vav Omid Beis we find in the Gemara, as in many other sources in Shas Bavli, Simonim. So in Shas Bavli we have many Simonim. And I remember as a young boy, I learned Bava Basra, and I was shocked when I came across Bava Basra Mem Vav Omid Beis Amalek Siman. So why would Chazal use the name of Amalek as a Siman? So I mentioned before the minig of kids making noise when in the Megillah we read Haman. What's the point in making noise? It doesn't make any sense. I think it's a minig tos. Where does it come from? We do find in several early sources in Sifrei HaMinhagim that there is a minig while we read the Megillah to write the name Haman or the name Amalek on stones, on rocks, on pieces of wood, and then when the Shliach Tzibah comes to Haman, trying to erase the name of Haman, and in that way being Mekayim the mitzvah of Timche Zecha Amalek Mitachas HaShamayim. Timche Zecha Amalek means erase, eradicate. So the minig was writing Amalek or writing Haman and then banging stones or woods together to erase his name. So throughout many years, people forgot all of what the minig was all about, and they no longer wrote the names. What was more obvious and evident is the noise that it created, because when you bang rocks together or pieces of wood together, boards together, obviously it makes noise. But the objective was not making noise, but rather erasing Haman's name. And so after years or generations or decades, who knows how much time, what was left of this minig was just making the noise and no longer Mechias Hashem. But the origin of this minig shows that we need to erase and eradicate Haman. So who would dare to erase him in Bava Basra, Daf Mem Vav Omid Beis? Chazal put him in there, so how could we take him out? So I was perplexed, and I found Rabbi Yaakov Emden in his Agos and Shas Bavli, Bava Basra Daf Vav, actually asked this question. And Rabbi Yaakov Emden says, and I'm more or less quoting his Lashon, it's not exact, but more or less, Kachya oseh lemenuval hazeh, that's what he writes. Legror oto lebeis hamedrash, לשבר את כוחו ולהוציא ממנו כל ניצוץ קדושה שיש בו. So we need to fight Amalek. Where is Amalek? So there are two different concepts of Amalek. And the Zohar Kodesh says, when Moshe Rabbeinu calls Aaron and he says, say Hilochem bi Amalek, the Zohar wonders, this is such a great mitzvah and such a great schos. Chazal say, Ein Shmoi Shalom, ve'ein Kisoi Shalom. Ad shemocha zecha Amalek metachas hashamayim. So why does Moshe Rabbeinu send others? Mitzvah bo yosem b'shluchoi. Why doesn't he stand at the head of the army to fight Amalek? Why does he send Aharon? That's what the Zohar asks. And the Zohar says, there is Amalek de la Tata and Amalek de la Eilo. There's the physical Amalek, who is a nation, a people, an army, and we need to fight them and destroy them. But there is Amalek de la Eilo, and that is Amalek up there in the heavens. And you cannot destroy Amalek de la Tata unless you overpower Amalek de la Eilo. And Moshe tells Aaron, you stand at the head of the army, and I will fight Amalek de la Eilo. And how does Moshe fight Amalek de la Eilo? V'hoya kasher yori Moshe es yodoi v'govi Yisrael. So Moshe fights Amalek de la Eilo. The Mishnah says in Rosh Hashanah, kasher Moshe yoram es yodoi b'nei Yisrael mishabdem livom el aviyim sheb'shamayim, and that gives Moshe the power to fight Amalek de la Eilo. So that is the interpretation and the understanding of the Zohar. Why must it be Moshe to fight Amalek de la Eilo? Because the way to fight Amalek is al yedei Talmud Torah. That is the only way we could overpower and overcome and destroy Amalek. And Moshe is ultimately the Koyach HaTorah. The very fast Perek in Novi is Zichru Torah's Moshe Avdi Asher Tzivesi Mechorav. Our Torah is defined and called Torah's Moshe Avdi. So Moshe fights Amalek de la Eilo. So Rabbi Yaakov Emden, and that is the way I understand Rabbi Yaakov Emden. Why did they put Amalek into Bava Basra? Because we don't have the physical Amalek today. Bosan Cherev and Bilbel Eskola Umois. But we still struggle with Amalek. Amalek out there. Amalek in the streets, in the stadiums, on the beaches, in the movie houses. Amalek is everywhere. Amalek de la Eilo, and he's a threat. All the koiches of Tum in the world are Amalek. How do we fight him? He's stronger than us everywhere, besides in Beis HaMedrash. And a smart army, a brilliant commander, maneuvers, and he lures his enemy into the terrain and the territory where he is strongest. And that's what Rabbi Yaakov says. We bring him into the Beis HaMedrash because that is where that's our strength. So, and that is what Purim is about. Purim is about Haman, Purim is about Menahafoichu, Purim is about Amalek, because Haman was Mesera Amalek, and therefore Talmud Torah and Purim is such an amazing symbol. So the Gemara says that you probably all remember in Megillah Daf Tez Zayin, Godol Talmud Torah Yosem Atzolas Nefoshes, and the Gemara proves this from Mordechai. So before Mordechai became an Askin, before he became, a public figure, he was a kollel guy, and he learned in the kollel of Rav Agon Baruch Ben Neria, had a kollel. And Haman learned in the Beis HaMedrash. Haman. B'nei bonav shel Haman, not Haman. But Mordechai was a great scholar, and a great teacher, and a great masmid. But then the danger and the decrees of Haman became known, and Mordechai rose to the challenge. And he was the leader of the entire Jewish community. And he was the one that was Zeicher to bring forth Nisim v'Neflois and the victory and the Bitul Gzeres Haman. But nevertheless, part of the Sanhedrin were against Mordechai. And he was held of greater esteem before this all happened. And Chazal proved God Talmud Torah, Yosem Atzolas Nefoshes. And the Gemara and Rashi explains it, Miktsas Sanhedrin Porshu Memeno, Mepnei Shebitul Min HaTorah. And that is why, at the very end of the Megillah, Rotzoi Leroiv Echov, the Gemara says, not everybody was happy with Mordechai. And some of the great scholars, some of the great Talmidei Chacham, and part of the Sanhedrin argued he was Mavatel Torah. And I don't understand. Is this called Bittul Torah? Kol mitzvah she'ef shel asoy sel adei acherim, doich Talmud Torah. And there was a mortal danger on the entirety of Klal Yisrael. Hashmet laharik, Skol Yehudim, Anoshim, Noshim v'Taf. So how could anybody argue against Mordechai? I think their argument was, Mordechai, you've got to understand, this is Malchemes Amalek. How could we fight Amalek with Bittul Torah? It won't work. It won't work. To fight Amalek, we need Bava Basra. To fight Amalek, we need Talmud Torah. So yes, their argument wasn't the Aveira of Bittul Torah. It wasn't Talmud Torah they were worried about. They were worried about the Gezerah. How could you overcome Amalek, and how could you fight Amalek with Bittul Torah? That was their concern. So yes, the way to fight Amalek de la Elo, is al Yidei Talmud Torah, and especially al Yidei Simchas HaTorah. So the Eglei Tal is very well known in his introduction to the Eglei Tal. And the Eglei Tal on one hand was a Hasidic master. He was the founder of the Sakhachev dynasty, and he was the son-in-law of the Kotzker Rebbe. And on the other hand, he was one of the greatest Lamdonim of his generation, an unbelievable sage and Ilui. And in the introduction to his magnificent sefer, Eglei Tal and Hilchos Shabbos, he speaks about Simchas HaTorah. And he quotes the Zohar, that the Yetzer Hara derives its strength from Simchas HaChet, and the Yetzer Tov grows by Simchas HaTorah. And he speaks at great length, Ikar Darka Shel Torah is with Simcha. And you probably heard from me many times Rabbeinu Yoina Masechet Avos, which all my Talmidim could quote by heart. And Rabbeinu Yoina Perek Beis Mishnah Yudalad Masechet Avos writes on the Mishnah, Kishato Omer Da Lefnei Mi Ato Omer Kosev Rabbeinu Yoina Kishato Misyagea V'Torah Tishtashea Bo Ki HaTorah Hoyso Shashuav Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu והקדוש ברוך הוא נוסן, לנו תורה שאנו נשתשע בה. And this is an amazing line. Amor is toil, and Shashua is pleasure, or fun. I don't know exactly how to translate Shashua. B'noyag shebeyolam, toil and pleasure are contradictory. Person works in his office, in his shop, with his computer, whatever it is. He works 5 days a week, and then he has a weekend to live it up. He works 11 months a year, more or less, and then he has vacation time to live it up, to enjoy. כשאתו מסייגע בתורה תשתעשע בו, אנו משתעשעים ביגיע, יגיעים בשעשוע. Our toil and our joy come from the same place, and we enjoy Omer HaTorah. That is what Rabbeinu Yonah teaches us. Kisha'ato misyageya b'Torah tishtashea bo. And I don't need to speak to you about this, because you're all great Lamdonim. But many times when I speak to kids and young boys from more modern sectors, whether it is in Israel, boys that come from the Dati Leumi community, or some of our dear friends in the modern Orthodox world, and young kids, and I always tell them, well, you all know that the way to Olam Haba is through Torah, but you might not be aware of that the way to Olam Haza is also through Torah. And I know very few people that really enjoy their jobs. It's very uncommon. Everybody would much rather not have to work. Everybody would much rather have vacation all year round than 1 month a year or 3 weeks a year. I don't think I would prefer having vacation. I think if I wouldn't be paid a cent, I would do exactly what I'm doing anyway. So a lucky person is the one that's being paid for what he would do anyway. So I know some tour guides, and they show around people in Yerushalayim, and the tourists come from the entire world, and they're so overcome and engaged, and they open big eyes just to absorb everything they see. But the guide is terribly bored. I've been here 500 times. There's nothing new for me to see here. I would rather stay home. I'm trying to be excited just to make them happy, but there's nothing for me to see. When I learn a sugya that I already learned 100 times, it always looks new to me, and every time I go through it, I always see some new nuances and new tzdadim, and it's always exciting. I was never bored by a sugya that I learned 500 times or 100 times or whatever it is. So this is Olam Hazeh. It's not only Olam Haba. And Chazal say in Perek Vav Masechet Avos Yamat Rois Again, Ashur Kol Olam Hazeh V'Toiv L'Cho La'Olam Haba. So Shashua Shel Torah is the greatest chus, and Shashua Shel Torah is also the Veikus. Because let's get back to the amazing Rabbeinu Yodi. Rabbeinu Yodi says, and that's his understanding of the Mishnah. What does the Mishnah mean? Kisha'ato Omer, da lifnei mi ato Omer, ki HaTorah is a shashua shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Pasuk says, Ayetz la'omer, v'shashua v'yom yom, v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu nosan lo HaTorah she'anu nishtasheh bo, which means, the ultimate veikus is halech b'drachav, advek b'medoisav. And when we are mishtasheh b'divrei Torah, it is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, and we emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Shashua Shel Torah and Simchas HaTorah is also the Veikus. And that is what Simchas HaTorah and Torah is all about. And that gives us Kiddush. So we're approaching Purim. In recent years, beautiful minhag. Not only the general minhag of Avos Abonim, which is such an inspiration, but I think every year on Purim, most of our community leaves home for an hour and we go to learn with children, and it's such a big schus to dedicate some time Purim purely for Talmud Torah. And many times, and you probably heard this many times from me, when young boys come and ask me whether I know of any zgula lizikorin, is there any zgulas to enhance our memory and our yediyas of Torah? And I just spoke about this in Toronto. I spoke to a yeshiva, wonderful young boys. And once again they asked me, how does one remember Shas? And I say there's a chosh of a sefer, and it's based on Kisvei Ari. I don't want to sound cynical, but the sefer says, when you put the early snow, the early winter snow on your forehead, that's as good for Zikorim. So I told the boys in Toronto, in Toronto it's a very reasonable proposition. You have a lot of snow up there, a lot of snow, no lack of snow. But there's a Jew living in Bnei Barak, and his name is Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And he remembers Shas. So how does one remember Shas in Bnei Barak? They never have snow in the winter. So how come he remembers Shas? So obviously, there are other ways to remember Shas besides piling snow on your head. So putting snow on your head is as good for Zikorin. How long will that Zikorin last? Until the snow dissolves, I think. Not much longer. Not much longer. And every bardas, Mishiyesh lo moyach bekod, they understand. You don't remember Shas by putting snow on your head. So is there a Zgura for Zikorin? So the Chofetz Chaim was once asked, and the Chofetz Chaim just quoted a pasuk in Tehillim. V'sosam v'lo piresh, kiyem b'toyres Hashem cheftzoi. Meaning to stress that if it's really b'toyres Hashem cheftzoi, and you yearn and you have a shtoikikas, you're thirsty for a Torah, and it's what you want and what you desire, that in itself is as good for Zikorin. And I quote another posik in Tehillim, Kuf Yutes posik Tes Zayin, B'chu koisecho eshtasho, lo eshkach dvorecho. And the Radak, one of the greatest Rishonim, on this posik writes his interpretation. Kasher ani oisig v'divrei Torah, ani mishtashea bohem, ulefichach lo eshkachem, ki hemu li lesoson, ulesimchas leibo. So when you are mishtashea v'divrei Torah, and you derive joy and pleasure out of Divrei Torah, that will enhance your memory. Did you ever see a normal father that doesn't remember the birthdays of his own children? Did you ever see a Norman Zadie that doesn't know the names of his grandchildren? Because we love them and they're so close to our hearts that we will never forget them. We cannot forget them. Atishkach isha ulo merachem pri bitno v'onochi lo ashkechech, says the Novi. So the pasuk says, "B'chukosecho eshtasho," and therefore lo eshkach v'orecha. So Simchas HaTorah is also Isgula. So Purim, we combine Simchas HaYom and Simchas HaChag with Simchas HaTorah, and that is the ultimate dveikus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu mishtasheh b'teroseh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us derech she'onu mishtasheh. So there's a story told. Some tell it about the Gaon, others tell it about the Baal Shem Tov. And there's so many stories that either the Gaon or the Baal Shem Tov, one of the great giants of our heritage. One of his Talmidim once came to say goodbye and get a brocha, and he was traveling far away, and the Gadol told him, remember, Shnei Tmidim b'kol yom. Every day there are two Tmidim. And when he left his Rebbe's room, he wondered, what did he mean? The Yachash Shachor of Beis Hamikdash, there no longer is a Kohen Tumid. So what did he mean? Remember and never forget Shnei Tmidim b'kol yom. And then he realized. The very first sif in Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Siman Aleph Sif Aleph, the Ramo quotes the Rambam of Nevuchim. Shavisi Hashem lenegdi tomi. The very last sif in Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, once again the Ramo, the very last words in Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, he deals with Purim Koton. So Purim Koton, do we make a feast, do we make a Seder or not? And he says, why not? Toiv leiv mishte tomid. And those are the Shnei Tmidim that should be with us every day. Shavisi Hashem lenegdi tomid, toiv leiv mishte tomid. Because sometimes Shavisi Hashem lenegdi tomid could depress you, and it ruins your mood. No, doesn't need to be so. No, it should go together. Toiv leiv mishte tomid with Shavisi Hashem lenegdi tomid. So Simchas a mitzvah and Yiras Hashem. Yira and Simcha should come together. That's what the Gemara says in Brochas Lamed Daled. Yivdu Hashem b'simcha v'gilu bir'odo. V'gilu bir'odo. Gilu is Simcha and Ra'odo is Yira. So those are the Shnei Tmidim. And Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, out of all the Dalet Chaka Shulchan Aruch, deals primarily with Seder Hayom. Yoredei says Beheto, Even says Ben Ish L'Ishtoi, Choshe Mishpot is monetary issues. How a Jew lives, that is Orach Chaim. So the very first sif is Shavisi Hashem Negdi Somed, and the very last sif is Toiv Leiv Mishte Tomed. Yira and Simcha should not contradict each other, they should enhance each other. And I say, it needs to be Tmidim Kisidrom, V'mesofen Kelchosim. You need to start Lefia Seder. First Shavisi Hashem Negdi Tomed, and then Toiv Leiv Mishte Tomed. If you start off with Toiv Leiv Mishte Tomed, yes, not a remote chance ever coming to Shavisi Hashem Negdi Tomed. So it's got to be Tmidim Kisidron. The Seder is Ma'akev. So in some sugis in Shas Seder is not Ma'akev. Shnei Tmidim, Seder is Ma'akev. You need to start off with Shavisi Hashem Negdi Tomed, and then add on for balance with Toiv Leiv Mishte Tomed. So we should always be Zoche to Simchas HaTorah, to Simchas HaMitzvah, and Simchas HaChag. And I quoted the Noam HaMelech, and the Noam HaMelech says, Purim is a day in which it is mesugal to overcome Midas Adin, and the Svas Emes. On Purim, the Svas Emes says that Purim is also mesugal every year. One should daven for the Mapola of Oivei Yisrael, of our enemies. That's the story of Purim. And that is the Gula, which is renewed every year. So let us hope that Kodesh Baruch Hu will Yismach Hashem b'masav, Kodesh Baruch Hu Yismach imanu, and we should rejoice together with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And Chazal say, Kol ha-moyedim asidem lehibotel, but Yomei HaPurim lo yavru metoich ha-Yehudim. We should deserve b'kol b'yameinu, Yeshua Yisrael, v'nahafech hu ha-sheyish lo Yehudim heimu b'seneihem. and we should always be b'simchas, simchas HaTorah and simchas HaMitzvah, and simchas HaGeula. We should be zorcha b'kol b'yameinu. Bi'az Goel said that b'simchas olam al rosham b'mheiro b'yameinu. Amen.